right, thank you, Mr. Farr. Just for a note, Mr. Cooey, President Cooey's not here tonight, so I'll be running the meeting. And let's start with welcoming everyone for coming. I appreciate you being here tonight. There is a sign-in list. If you could make sure that you put your name on there, that would be great. Okay, we'll start with approval of the agenda.
Madam President,
Ms. Flies.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda by Ms. Felines and a second by Mr. Farr. Is there any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? Motion carries 6-0. All right, moving on to approval of the minutes. Looking for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve minutes. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Favor by signifying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 6-0. Ms. Heim, did you get that? Motion is by Mr. Hendricks. Okay. All right, board member reports. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Hendricks.
I don't have much to say for last month. I went to the NNDA meeting via Zoom. Other than that, I've just been working hard this summer and trying to stay out of the heat.
Thank you. Ms. Parsons?
I just wanted to thank the FFA in Fernley, their chapter. They gave us this honorary FFA membership for me and my late husband. And I just wanted to say, since we're okaying them to go to nationals, I just wanted to say a few things about their group. And let's see, I'll start with, of course, they took first place in state, and then they just went down this last week and a half ago and took first place Fernley did, in 4-H in Yerington. And just Ben Matley and that crew is putting out some fantastic kids. Let's see, I guess I'll just do my granddaughter first. She's working up at Wells as a FFA instructor, and she works in the summer for who she did her internship with. And the second person I want to mention, who's graduated recently from college, is Bunyard, Carrie Bunyard's son. He started a meat processing plant in the Gardnerville area. So anyways, so we might think when we're voting for these guys to go on these trips and to be, supporting FFA, it really has led to a number of jobs. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre.
Yeah, I don't have much to report. I'm just ready for summer to be over and slow down a little bit to get back into school.
Thank you, Mr. Farr.
So my report pretty much consists of my wife, who is a teacher, has kept me quite busy with my indentured servitude duties of helping her set her classroom up, and being a Sherpa to and from the car with all their supplies. So, and I've noticed as I've gone around some of the schools this summer that some of the improvements that we have voted on in the past are well underway. I was glad to see what was going on at Cottonwood and also at Sutherland Middle School. So keep up the good work.
All right, thank you, Ms. Felines.
Thank you. I just wanted to build a little bit upon what Darren said as far as the improvements. It's so rewarding to see those come to fruition. And in Yerington, the kiss and drop looks like it's done. They were hosing it off, and They've got some trees planted and shrubs and it looks wonderful. And I'm really excited to see how this will help improve the little bit of madness when you drop off the kids. So this should really help. And I'm excited to see how this impacts our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Valines. For myself, I just want to welcome everyone back to school. It's getting really exciting. And I wanted to thank everyone that's getting ready for the staff celebration, the all-staff celebration. It's a lot of work. And then just as an announcement for the board members, just a reminder that there's a NASB training on Saturday, September 7th in Elko, and it's about focusing on effective board governance. So let's go ahead and move on to attitude of gratitude. Let's start with Mr. Hendricks.
My attitude of gratitude is from Auburn McBroom. She says she's successful at Sutro Elementary School because of Miss Simpkins. I want to thank her for helping me get through the last few months of my being in speech and letting me stay in speech till 6th grade. Thank you so much, Miss Simpkins.
Thank you, Ms. Parsons.
My name is Sophia Alcasser, and I am successful at Fernley Intermediate because of Mr. Paulson. I want to thank him for always making the work and other things fun, and is a super nice teacher. He would make days better, and he always helped if there was a problem or if they didn't know how to do something. He would always help.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre.
My name is Faith, and I am successful at Silver Stage Middle School because of Ms. Hackstaff. I want to thank her for helping me be the best reader and language person I can be. I love this class and don't want to leave. Signed, Faith.
Thank you, Mr. Farr.
I really want to meet this kid. Says, my name is Jacob Powell, and I am successful in Yiddish at Dayton Intermediate School because of Miss Furr. I want to thank her for helping me cheer up every day and walk into her class. In your class, I feel joyful and happy, but your class also can get good when you're teaching. And I know that some kids mess around, but that's because they don't see how good of a teacher you are.
Thank you, Mr. Farr. Ms. Valines.
My name is Marissa Flores de Los Santos, and I am successful at Dayton Intermediate School because of Mr. Wass. I want to thank him for being such an amazing teacher and putting up with me. I want to thank you for not giving up on me for 2 years and for encouraging me to keep going. It's nice having a teacher to joke around with, and it's nice being able to talk to you. To be honest, you're one of my favorite teachers. I know that this will be our last year with each other, but I will take everything I've learned from you and use it forever. Thank you for being an amazing teacher, Marissa.
Thank you. Mr. Logan, you have one?
I do. My name is Aiden Cerritos, and I am successful at Dayton Elementary School because of the principal, Mr. Woodford, who's here tonight. I want to thank him for keeping the school together and encouraging us to work and make us happy. Well done, Mr. Woodford.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Mine is from Molly France, who is successful at Dayton High School because of Mr. Allender. I want to thank him for being so funny and making class so fun. You have taught me so much this year, and I want to thank you for making me successful. You have the best stories and the best outfits, and I always look forward to come into your class. All right, thank you. All right, we're moving right on to the superintendent report, Mr. Logan.
Got a few items. First of all, I want to thank DES for hosting tonight. It's hard. They had all our teachers back for their very first day today, and then we roll right into a board meeting. And so I know that takes a lot of work, so thank you. Also, Kirk McCallum is here, and him and his crew have been very busy over the summer. And if you drive to any school, there's pretty much projects at every school that we've had, and they are hustling to button it all up before school starts on Tuesday. We'll have a report next time on facilities and what was accomplished over the summer. The kiss and drop was brought up. There will be a ribbon cutting ceremony that they're trying to put together, and we'll try to have some kids there, but we will make sure you guys are invited to be part of that as well. This is good news for me because it's, and probably Mr. Latin here, but the Booth Par Field is officially Lyon County School District's property now. And that has been over years of work to get that accomplished. So we got that officially done, I think, in the last week or so. Once again, want to invite you to the All-Staff Professional Development Day that's coming Friday. Again, with subs, we're talking about 1,000 to 1,300 employees that'll be there. Just a great opportunity to see their excitement to come back. Have a great guest speaker that you guys have seen before, Sean Buchanan, who spoke at our NASB presentation. But please come be part of any portion of it, and we'd love to have you. The first day of school, as the teachers are well aware, is next Tuesday, and many mothers are excited about that day as well. And then last, we would actually like to take a moment. We have our new staff that are new to our schools here in Dayton, and we'd like to introduce them to you. And so we'll kind of go in this order. If administrators can have Ms. Kuhn, then Mr. Walker, Mr. Woodford, Mr. Kranchek, and then we'll finish with Dayton High School with Ms. Bumgarner. New staff members, after you're introduced, if you don't mind coming up and shaking our hands, and then we'll go to that point. So, Ms. Kuhn.
Staff members introduced today. This is Mr. Tim Lindley. He's joining us as a 5th grade teacher. We do have a new STEM teacher at our school who couldn't be here, unfortunately, but we have very few new staff members. So that's very exciting.
We have several staff members. We have, unfortunately, one of our new teachers has a child in the hospital, and one of my teachers is sick. So the healthy ones are here tonight. So first up, we have Susie Owens, who is giving us a year of her retirement from Carson City. Super teacher. I've worked with her in the past, and I know she's going to do great things. Fresh into the profession, we have Diana Nunez, who actually went to schools I worked at when she was in elementary and middle school, and she still came and worked for me. So I guess that says something. And then we have 2 new paras. We have Sandra Torres and Idaho. She moved here from Idaho. So she has worked as a para in a number of schools, and so her experience is going to be much appreciated. And then we pulled Monica Gafford right out of being a mom helper and substitute into a full-time para in our school. So we're happy to have all of them.
All right, I'm Chase Woodford here at Dayton Elementary. Gonna have to get Bobcat Hudstead today for that. I've got most of my new staff here. I've got Shaylee Hoggins. She's going to be teaching our pre-K. Susan Foreman will be teaching 1st grade. Jenny Workman will be joining our team in 2nd grade, and Kelly Felton will be one of our resource teachers. In addition, I have one other resource teacher, Abby Fisher. She couldn't make it, and then a strategies position. Aaron Factor will be teaching strategies. So just really excited about the team and everyone who's ready to get going.
Good evening, Kevin Francis, Principal of Senior Intermediate School. We've got really 40 staff members, teachers, to our school this year, one from transfer from Silver Springs, and she's actually returning to Dayton Intermediate School. And that's Renee Ewing, who I didn't have come this evening. But we've got 3 new staff members to us this year. Amber Vidovich, who's actually a product of Lyon County School, Dayton Intermediate School, high school. Went to UNR, went to Fernley High School for a few years. Went back to UNR to complete her master's. She took a year off and we were lucky enough to steal her from Fernley. So she'll be Dayton Intermediate School and Dayton High School this year, band and choir teacher. So extremely lucky to have Sanford back. We also have Christina Woods. She's coming to us from Riverview Elementary School. She's a classified STEM teacher there. She's going to be teaching STEM and computer science at our school this year. And she is currently going through the program at UNLV to become a fully licensed teacher. So she's working as a long-term sub intern for us this year. So extremely excited to have Christina and her excitement for computer science and STEM working with our students this year. And lastly, we have Sean Kinney. He is another product of Lyon County Schools and Dayton, especially. So he went to Dayton Intermediate School and Dayton High School. Just finished playing some baseball at Feather River the last few years, got his AA in biology, and he is enrolled at Western Governors and going through to be a teacher as well, wants to be a science teacher. So extremely lucky to have him. As we had all of our new staff back today, or all of our staff back today, I'll doing some quick finger math and realized that we've got 7 employees at Dayton Intermediate School that are a product of Lyon County Schools. So I'm very proud of that and excited that they're staying in the county and coming back and serving our students. So very lucky to have so many former students coming back and serving our students. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Hi, I'm Weber, Principal of Dayton High School. I'm really excited to introduce our staff. We have a really awesome group here. I'm super excited. First, I'll brag on Amber Vidova a little bit. She's joining us at the high school, like you heard Kevin say. She's actually a product of my program when I taught music, so it's extra special to me to have one of my students come back and teach with me. So that's super awesome. Speaking of super awesome, we have Garrett Corbett here. He has been actually the past 3 years as a long-term sub with us and got his master's in education, and he's officially fully licensed to teach English for us this year. So super excited for that. We have Michael DePolo here. He is joining us most recently from South Lake Tahoe in special education. So super excited. He'll be taking over our PACE lab this year and doing that. Next, I have Tony Brandon. He is going to be a long-term sub for us in English this year. Super excited to work with him. We have Ms. Anna Espinoza, and she is returning to us this year, finally fully as a licensed teacher. She actually was our registrar at Dayton High School, went through the Grow Your Own program and got licensed in science. So she's official this year. She did it long sub for us for 2 years and did her internship with us. So she's fully licensed now. Super excited to have her. Next to her, I have Ms. Karen Pugh. Karen actually taught at Dayton High School a little bit ago, took some time off to go get her PhD. So Dr. Karen Pugh. Please be joining us this year as a long-term sub in our English department as well. And then finally on the end, I have Valeria Berrigan. She is long-term subbing for us again this year in Spanish. She is also a Dayton High School graduate. So it's really exciting to have 3 Dayton High School graduates back up here with us and teaching with us. So super excited.
Nice to meet you, Margaret. Good to see you again. Good to see you again.
Sorry.
Very thankful for all our new staff and impressed that Scranton could count to 7, but it is just fun to see that excitement, and this is kind of my favorite time of year, is to see that excitement and new life coming into the schools as well. And so thank you for all being here. Madam President, we'd like to, or I guess clerk, I don't know how we call it. We'd like to excuse them, though. They do have a work day tomorrow, and so if that's okay, we'd like to excuse.
Absolutely.
That is the end of my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. I'm excited to have our new staff. Moving on to line item number 9, public participation. Is there any public participation for items on the agenda at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will, oh, is there one? Okay, sorry. All right, let me read this statement really quick. Public participations, item listed on the agenda. At this time, the public is invited to address the board on items listed on the agenda over which the board has jurisdiction. If you wish to speak, please step up to the front table, be seated, and state your name. Your comments must be limited to no more than 3 minutes per agenda item with a maximum of 10 minutes total. In consideration of others, avoid repetition or designate a spokesperson to speak on behalf of your group. Although this board does not restrict comments based upon viewpoint, comments will be prohibited if the contents are willfully disruptive, slanderous, amount to personal attacks, or interfere with the rights of other speakers. Comments made during this time will be monitored by myself, the board clerk. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm just gonna, because I know you guys are gonna be going over these.
Could you state your name for the
Oh,
record?
sorry. I'm Lorraine Delatorre with LCEA. I just forget. You guys know me. My fault. I'm going over the board policies. So I'm going to start with board policy GA, general provisions in regards to that. I just wanted to point out for the policy, it has already in the policy on the first page, except as may be provided in a collective bargaining agreement. And then in the last paragraph, it also states the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement shall govern. I'm asking that you add those in the new area, which is on the second page, which is all red, that if you guys can please add those in there, except as may be provided in a collective bargaining agreement after the first sentence. And also second paragraph at the end, maybe include, it says, and including termination, comma, as except as may be provided in a collective bargaining agreement, because we do have our bargaining agreement that has those procedures in there in regards to that. I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead to is it GAB? Hold on.
The one you just mentioned, GA.
Was GA, yes. And it might be easier if I submit what I had highlighted along with the contract language for that. It might be easier that way too.
That would be good because this is just a first reading.
Exactly. It's a first reading. So I just wanted to get that on record that I have the contract page. Hold on a second. That one's okay. You go to, here we go. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go to GABA, which is also the first reading, which says employee access to personal files. I was asking that if on the very first page, it says personnel file upon request as provided in policy GAC, and if you could please add and collective bargaining agreement, Article 7, teacher protection, because we have those policies in there. And then in there were so many. There we go. GABB in regards to negative information. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the policy, and I would also like you to not strike out 3 years after its inclusion in the file as our collective bargaining agreement 7-3-5 actually has a whole clause in regards to that 3-year mark that's in there. And let's see, I think that may be it. I had different highlights too. And I don't mind, scanning this and submitting it to whoever needs to see it. I just want to make sure that the bargaining agreement that it references and those policies for personnel are also reflected in the new board policies. Because that's in there also. I guess I can't ask if you had any questions, but please reach out if there are any questions in regards to those. I do have them available.
All right, if you could submit that, that would be great. And like we said earlier, these are just a first reading, so we can have time to digest what you just said.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if we wanted to work and you wanted to email me ahead, I hate to do this during this time. I would have preferred, but I didn't get a chance to really look at them until Monday. So at that point, it's kind of late for me and you guys to talk about them.
All right, thank you.
Should I leave them here or can I email them and scan them?
Either way, you can leave those copies and email them as well. Whatever you want to do.
Separate copy. Or is that your copy or do you have it?
This is my copy. I do have the highlighted, well, you know what? I can leave it. I'm okay. Because I have another one with the board policy. Let me pull out what you don't need and I'll drop it off really quick. Okay.
All right, thank you. Is there any other public participation? All right, seeing none, we will close public participation and move on to line item 10, consent agenda.
Peterson, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Yeah, and have a motion by Mr. Farr, a second by Mr. McIntyre. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor by signifying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? Motion carries 6-0. Okay. Moving on to line item 12. Give me a second. Right. Discussion regarding an introduction and brief master facilities plan process and timeline presentation from Orcutt Winslow. This item is being presented by Executive Director of Operations Harmon Baines and Orcutt Winslow partner Sarah Vannon. Hopefully I said your name correctly. I apologize if I did not. Okay. Go ahead when you're ready. If you want a physical copy of the presentation, there's some on the table.
Right, this month, it's Madam President, members of the board. Item number 12, we're just wanting to, like you said, present a quick update and an introduction of Orcutt Winslow, the company that we've contracted with to do our 10-year master facilities plan. As Superintendent Logan shared last month, we did develop a plan for the community members, the two vacant spots for community members to join the facilities committee. And those slots have been filled. And they've been filled by former board members. So it's great to see that they still have interest in Lyon County School District, both John Stevens and Neil McIntyre. And now I'm just gonna pass it off to Mr. Bala here to kind of introduce himself and go through a little bit of a presentation.
Perfect. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Appreciate you giving us this opportunity to work with you to think about the future of Lyon County School District for the next 10 years. I'm going to have a short presentation. I'll just go through it pretty quickly. Introducing the firm, Orcutt Winslow, we're a national firm located in 7 cities across the US, and K-12 is primarily what we do. And the types of projects we do are really grounded in the type of work we're beginning to do with you, which is really think about what the future looks like and how do we connect the dots across a region within your schools, and how do you connect, for example, influences from a business perspective? And what do we need to educate our kids with to be setting them up for success in the future? And so a lot of the work you see is grounded in that type of work. We very strongly believe that the school environments can be a strong catalyst to learning, and we ground our work in a lot of environmental research to support that. So the team that we're assembled here, I am the partner in charge. We're going to have a few others cycling in and out of it. And Ms. Williams was an educator for 26 years that is going to be leading a lot of the conversation with the steering committees. And then there's a larger team that is going to be working simultaneously on several things, such as the conditions of your facilities, but also looking at the adequacy and the suitability of your facilities to support programming in the near and the far future. So how does that impact the environment? So that's the overarching process that we're going to be following. And here is a quick 4-bullet point summary of the overall process. We're going to be starting with something called visioning and benchmarking, which essentially pulls into focus 4 different data streams. The first one is capacity and utilization, which is the size and the number of classrooms and other types of learning spaces you're going to be needing, and how demographic trends and enrollment trends, for example, pushes into that. The second is adequacy, which is sort of a current metric based on what you're doing today. Are these facilities adequate to support the types of experiences to enhance your students' learning experiences? Suitability is similar, but it's a forward metric. It's what are you going to be doing in the next 5 years to 10 years, and can these environments adapt and flex to provide those types of supports? And the last one, obviously, is the conditions of it. So these 4 data streams are going to be pulled into focus, but the foundation of our conversation is your portrait of the learner. Because the ultimate why do we need to look at all of these is to ultimately help you fulfill the portrait of the learner you've developed and cultivate the types of skills that makes your students successful, not just today, but whatever they choose to do in the future. And so community engagement is going to be a big part of that. And so we're getting ready to engage with your community across all your regions. We're forming those committees, and it looks like this, essentially. It's a matter of having a community be a part of their own solution-making process, give them the voice, amplify their voice, and then connect the dots from the district side to help them visualize that future and allow that to influence how we think about facilities. The second part of this is the capacity utilization piece of it and the adequacy and the conditions assessment piece. And there's various steps that our partners are going to be going through to document your needs as far as the conditions of your facilities over the next 10, 20 years. And then you'll have a dashboard that you can work off of. Mr. Baines and his team can work off of to be able to prioritize projects, not just to address the conditions of those facilities, but potentially address some adequacy and suitability needs as well for educational outcomes. And so we use an industry standard metric to document that. It's called an FCI that will allow you to continue to maintain this. It's a living document that is going to be available for you. And we're going to be cycling back in every 3 years to be able to update this. So this is not a one-off conversation. This is going to be an ongoing effort. And the third part of that is the whole programming and the feasibility planning of it. And this is where we really try to connect the learning outcomes to the learning environments and try to create some benchmarks that you would consider to be important for you to offer the types of programming and the experiences for your students to really fulfill the portrait of the learner. How do they fully embrace that? Some examples of that from other projects. And that might form some of the qualitative benchmarks, for example, access to flexible furniture, for example, that might be a qualitative benchmark. So we'll develop these in consultation with your communities. And then the fourth part of that is to document all of these efforts into an overall prioritization matrix and some examples as to what that might look like. The ultimate point of this is to be able to give you clarity so you can execute these into projects over the next 5, 10, 15 years. But when you execute those projects, not just address conditions, but also address the adequacy and the suitability piece of it. So how do you find those overlaps so you're being effective with your dollars? So that's our ultimate goal. And it might take the form of a bond plan or other types of financial planning that over time allows you to be very strategic about your investments. And here's some examples of what that would look like. Here's a little book that we created that, is a final report that you can maintain and use over time. And then the overall schedule, we're just getting started. Our goal is to work through these multiple streams of efforts and to have an actionable plan that comes back to the Board of Trustees for consideration in the spring. So with that, I'll take some questions.
No questions? Well, I'll just make a comment. I was here last time we went through this master facilities plan, and I'm sitting here for the second time in a row, so I'm not sure if that dates me or how long I've been around, but thank you for embarking on this journey with us. It's quite an extensive and comprehensive thing to do, so appreciate it. Thank you for coming tonight to present as well. All right. Yes, Mr. Hearn.
And if I can quickly add, so as Mr. Bala mentioned, we are going to be hosting those kind of community attendance area types of meetings. So that those are beginning next month, the week of September 16th. So we're going to be hitting Dayton on the 16th, Fernley on the 17th, Silver Stage on the 18th, and Urington, Smith Valley on the 19th. So these dates are going to be shared. I believe they've already been shared to administrators and the board as well. So they're going to be going out to families. Administrators will be sending these emails out to those families in their attendance areas, along with community partners and businesses as well. We will be reaching out to in order to get a good group of a good group there to have these conversations that Mr. Ball and his team are going to be kind of orchestrating for us. So I did want to share that while I had the moment.
All right, thank you. And I was just checking what I put in my phone. It looks like they're from 4 to 6, the town hall meetings, basically 4 to 6
That's correct. 4 to 6 at the high schools.
at the high schools. All right, Mr. Farr.
Yeah, so Mr. Bala, I was part of the RFP team when you all present your proposals. What most impressed me about your company, I think, is the analytics that you really do the deep dive into, and the fact that it, like you addressed in your comments, that it's a living document, that it's not like we're stuck with this now for 10 years. We can update it as needed, and you provide that real-time data for us. So I appreciate you guys coming with those type of tools and helping us out.
Okay, thank you. This was just a discussion only, so we don't really need to take a motion, but thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to line item 13, discussion and possible action regarding the work of the Special Services Department in the Lyon County School District. This item is being presented by Executive Director of Special Services, Rachel Stewart, and Special Services Data Manager, Lisa Shea. Take it away, ladies.
Thank you. Good evening. Do we call you Madam President tonight?
Clerk Peterson, I don't know, whatever you want.
Good evening, Madam Clerk, members of the board. We're here to give you our annual updates for the Special Services Department. You have the report in front of you. Can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure. You have the report in front of you as well as the APR trend data. And we're just going to go over just a few highlights, and then if you have any questions at the end. For the 24-25 school year, we had 1,405 students on count day, which was as of October 1st. This was a slight increase from the previous year of about 70 students. For our annual performance report from the Department of Education, you can see Lyon County School District was determined as met requirements. One of the other highlights was all middle schools and our high schools continue to service and use our PACE lab throughout the year. We also did something great this year. We were able to braid CTE and work-based learning funds to update a few of the different things within the PACE labs. That's one of our highlights. The other thing that we did for PACE Lab this year is with your support, we were able to secure that contract with them for the next 4 years to be able to have a work-based learning coordinator as well as a PACE Lab coordinator. And they've also funded, Voc Rehab has also funded an upgrade of a few different technology pieces and new modules. So every few years, PACE Lab, right, they want to update what's in there for our students. So Voc Rehab has been a great partner to have in our school for our students. The other thing that we did this year in the past year was with the work of our amazing adaptive PE teachers, we were able to hold 2 Special Olympic track meets this year, as well as send several students to the Special Olympics, the Unified Champions basketball tournament that I know several of you were able to make it to. We were also able to secure some funds with Special Olympics this year as well as from support from you. so that we can continue that work and help provide our adaptive PE teachers with funds for that. And then we also have continued to have Project Achieve. This expanded to over 13 classrooms this past year. And that is in thanks to the Nevada Department of Education. They were able to give us funds and secure a Project Achieve a coach. Two of our sites, I know we've said this for the past couple of years, but two of our sites, Dayton Elementary School and Sutro Elementary School, were actually, they were highlighted at a conference this past year in Vegas called the American Council on Rural Special Education. So this was a pretty big deal, and one of the teachers and one of the paraprofessionals were able to get up and speak to how it's helped change the lives, not just for their students, but for them as well. And then finally, this is the big highlight, was that we were awarded over $1.6 million through our Early Childhood Literacy Innovation Program grant. And with your support with that as well. This past year, we were able to open up one pre-K classroom, but this year we're going to be opening up 9 pre-K classrooms on Tuesday to help service over 180 of our students. So we're pretty proud of that and continue with that. So at this time, do you have any questions?
Okay, Mr. Farr and then Mr. McIntyre.
So I'm very interested in this early childhood literacy innovation program. And you speak in your report about providing paraprofessional support and identify kindergarten classrooms. And what does that look like exactly?
Yeah, so with the grant, there were two opportunities. Opportunity one was to provide seats for our pre-K, and opportunity two was to provide innovative literacy ideas. So one of the things that we did was we wrote for a kindergarten para for every single school to be able to go in and help with the bottom 20% of students to provide them just that extra support around early literacy. So phonemic awareness, those types of things. So they get trained by our pre-K coach once a month. They come, get different little tidbits, and then they go back into the classroom.
Kind of like a modified interventionist?
Kind of, yes. They just don't teach.
Right.
So they're underneath whatever the teacher has them help with, that's what they do.
So we'll have one at every school?
We have one at every school, and I believe 3 schools, we actually have 2 because they have higher numbers or a lower socioeconomic status.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So the question I had was in the annual performance report, the Nevada State Performance Plan, I noticed that they have the targets in the district, the state, and whether we met that target, but I only see like in grade 4, 8, and 11. So is that tied to some kind of testing, or is that just random years that they pick?
I'm going to let Lisa speak to that for you. So that those are the 3 years that we have our state standardized testing. So 4th graders and 8th graders take the SBAC, and then our juniors take the ACT. And then our students who take the Nevada Alternative Assessment are most profoundly impacted 1% of students. They take that alternative assessment. So, but it's in those grades.
So the juniors is the ACT.
Juniors take the ACT, yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Parsons.
When I was looking at this data, I've seen a lot of times that the 8th graders data wasn't in there. Is that for the reason you were saying that they're taking other tests, or why isn't there data in here? Because it looked to me like there was more data than usual. But yeah, 8th grade is still.
8th grade is still a tough year. One of the things that we are having happen is we're having a lot of parents opt their students out of testing, for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's stress, and 8th grade tends to be kind of one of those high stress years. So we tend to see that happen. And so we're seeing an impact with that as well. Okay. Thank you, ladies. For a motion.
Ms. Peterson, I make a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the update on special education services provided.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Farr, seconded by Mr. McIntyre. Is there any further discussion? Favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. In line item 14, discussion regarding the Student Attendance Advisory Board per NRS 392.126. This item is being presented by Deputy Superintendent Don Huckabee.
Good evening. Good evening. Hi. Per NRS 392.126, Lyon County is to create a Student Attendance Advisory Board, SAAB, because we need just one more acronym in education these days. Under 392.126, it specifically outlines who the membership is in that committee. So it consists of someone from juvenile probation, someone from Yerington Police Department, an SRO, our deputy district attorney who's going to kind of oversee this committee. And then our board president, according to statute, is to select a parent to be on this and also a school board member to be on this committee. And so that's why we're here tonight. It's actually a discussion item for the board. And so that you know that as a county, we're going to start having the Student Attendance Advisory Board, and then also to have a nomination of a school board member from our president.
Thank you, Ms. Huckabee. Having spoken with President Cooey, he has appointed Neil McIntyre to sit as the trustee representation for that board. Mr. McIntyre, do you accept that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And then as far as the the parent, Mr. Cooey has instructed Mr. Logan to bring him a couple of parent suggestions for him to appoint next week. The initial meeting for this, I believe, got moved up in timeline, so they need to make that appointment next week. And then he will come back in his board report next month and update us on who was chosen to represent the parent group.
Thank you so much. Time is of the essence. The first meeting of this committee will be September 6th. Friday afternoon. So thank you for that. I do want to add that we're working with LCEA for a counselor or teacher that will also sit on this committee based on the statute.
Thank you. Mr. Farr has a comment.
I'd like to make a nomination for a parent. Mr. Phil Woolley, who's in the audience, who has several children in our school district and attends the majority of our meetings and stays well versed in the challenges and the infrastructure challenges that we have. So that would be my nomination for a parent to be on the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Farr. You can let Mr. Cooey know about that when you speak with him next week. All right, wonderful. Any more discussion? Yes, Ms. Parsons.
I heard you say something about who was going to head the committee. Didn't it say in the NRS that the members would vote on who would be the...
Yes, I'm sorry. I just meant that our Lyon County Assistant Deputy Attorney will be putting together the first meetings for everybody. So he's really just facilitating to have our first meeting.
All right, thank you for the clarification. All right, this is just a discussion only item, so we don't need a motion or a second unless there's any more discussion. All right, thank you, Ms. Huckabee. Moving on to line item 15, discussion and possible action regarding upgrades to DIS and SSMS boilers and HVAC. This item is being presented by Executive Director of Operations and Maintenance Supervisor Kirk McCallum.
President, members of the board, for item number 15, we are seeking your approval of significant projects that we are. Sorry. All right, so for item number 15, we are seeking your approval for 3 pretty significant projects happening at DIS and SSMS throughout this winter and going into summer 2025 for completion. Both DIS and SSMS are among the handful of schools which are still swamp cooled and have been swamp cooled from day one and now need to be swapped out with either new swamp coolers or new air handler units. So we're proposing a project for both schools, like we've proposed for Cottonwood Elementary School this summer and Suter Elementary School this summer. The replacement of swamp cooled units with new air chillers. Both these schools combined have 8 total units. In addition, for DIS, we are also proposing the replacement of their boilers as they are old and need to be replaced. So all 3 of these projects we've been working on for nearly a year now. And when I say we, I really mean Mr. McCallum. Have been working for nearly a year now with Train and CNR and a bunch of other contractors. We're bringing these forward tonight because if we can get this approval tonight, we can begin ordering equipment. And in addition to that, we can begin working on a lot of the exterior work that needs to be done. So we have lots of projects slated for summer 2025. With this approval, we can continue our schedule on DHS, FHS, YES, and SSES, potentially bringing all those projects forward in the coming months as well. So again, with your approval, we're anticipating about 50% of the work for the air handler units to be completed before summer even begins. And the entirety of the boiler project to be completed before summer even begins. And we're open to any questions you might have.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes, Mr. Farr.
make a motion, the Board of Trustees approve the air handler units, upgrades and boiler replacements at both Dayton Elementary School or Intermediate School, apologize, and Silver Stage Middle School at a cost of $10,080,049.
Is that 49 or is it 490? It's a weird number. Sorry.
Sorry, I should have added a 0 at the end.
So 490.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Farr and a second by Mr. Hendricks. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Okay, get chopping, fellas. Chop, chop. All right, moving on to line item 16. Discussion and possible action regarding revisions to policy GA, general provisions as a first reading. This item is being presented by Executive Director of Human Resources, Louis Joe Hogan, who will be sitting there for a long time.
Thanks.
Right, good evening, Madam Clerk, members of the board, Billy Joe Hogan for the record. Please note that edited revisions of the G policies tonight are in recent legislation that was passed. Every 2 years, there's recommendations provided by PULPAC to school districts from their lawyers to keep school districts in good standing. And that is where we start. So the first one is GA.
Can you just give us a brief update? What's changed on it?
Yeah. In GA, basically, it's a risk management, human resource, provides school districts recommended policy changes. And GA has addition of administrative regulations, which clarify each employee's responsibility of familiarizing themselves with the policies and signing an acknowledgement form, including and additionally clarifying the district's responsibility in making all personnel policies available to employees.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Hogan. I just want to note that these updates are because our insurance PULPAC is suggesting these updates so that we're in compliance. We're not liable. Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Madam President,
Ms. Valines.
I would move that we approve this as a first reading and acknowledge that we will have time to look at other suggestions from the public comment.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Ms. Valines and a second by Mr. Farr. Mr. Hendricks, did you have a comment?
These revisions are purely per recommendations from PULPAC.
Right, according to the legislation, every 2 years, they provide recommendations to school districts.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
I just wanted to make a point. The conversation, I don't remember if it was this policy, we had multiple ones from our negotiated agreement, trying to embed that. The reality is we could try to keep them separate. Negotiated agreement does supersede policy. So whatever's in the negotiated agreement is what's going to take precedence over the policy. So we try not to embed the two to where we have to come back every time we change the negotiated agreement, then we have to come back and change the policy. We just would just as well leave it out. And then the negotiated agreement is what rules the roost, I guess you'd
So
say.
the
on that.
CBA supersedes any policy on.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So that doesn't change anything. You'll see it, it was multiple policies that were brought up, but I would recommend that we don't embed the two, would be my recommendation. Again, this also comes straight from our insurance company pull pack, so there's probably a reason why we're not embedding the two. And then I also want to make a comment on all these. We need to get this probably to the unions before, so that they have time to look at it and make feedback before we even bring it. So that is something we have 20 plus that are coming in the next months. So we're going to try to bring just 5 at a time so we don't overburden you. So you have an opportunity to truly look through them. But yeah, every month you're going to see about 5 or 6 that are coming through. And they're all based on the same thing, but that would be my recommendation.
From a legal perspective, Mr. Latin, would you concur with that?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
And in addition to what our Superintendent Logan indicated, there is an NRS section that provides that the collective bargaining agreement takes precedent over most policies.
Okay.
So I agree with his recommendation that it not be embedded in every policy so that you don't have to come back and change it.
So we're not confusing people.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. That's fantastic to know. Thank you. All right, looking for a motion. Oh, we do have a motion. Ms. Felines and a second by Mr. Farr. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? All right, motion carries 6-0. Line item 17, discussion and possible action regarding revisions to policy GAB, personnel files as a first reading. This item is being presented by Executive Director of Human Resources, Billy Jo Hogan.
Thank you. The simple changes in policy GAB encourage transparency in government in the compliance of all applicable laws, and in doing so, protecting confidential information from disclosure to the extent allowed by law, specifically without limitation to Nevada's Public Record Act. And so you will know there's revised verbiage for clarity in the district policy in order for us to operate more efficiently and effectively.
Yes, Mr. Hendricks.
So I'm going to ask the same question again on all of these. These changes shown here are only what was recommended by Pull Pack.
Correct.
You just say that next time, then I will.
Sure.
Thanks.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes, Mr. Farr.
I make a motion that the board of trustees approve revisions to LCSD policy, board policy GAB personnel files as a first read.
Second. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Farr, second by, we'll give this one to Mr. McIntyre. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? Motion carries 6-0. Line item 18, discussion and possible action regarding revisions to policy GABA, employee access to personnel files as a first reading. This is being presented by Executive Director of Human Resources, Billy Jo Hogan.
All right, Mr. Hendricks, are you ready?
Yeah.
After each Nevada legislative session, the staff at Pull Pact and their attorneys, the Public Agency Insurance Pool and Risk Management, provides school districts with recommended policy changes based on the recent laws that were passed. Updating LCSD policies to reflect the recommended changes keeps us in good standing with insurance pool and mitigated our risks and liability. The simple changes in this policy, GABA, is revised language on employees viewing the contents of their own master file upon request as provided in policy GAC, confidential information. So the next one is confidential information, and we'll go into further detail.
Mr. McIntyre.
I make a motion that the board of trustees approves the revisions to LCSD board policy GABA as employee access to personal files as first reading.
Second.
Give this one to Ms. Felines. We have a motion by Mr. McIntyre and a second by Ms. Felines. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? Motion carries 6-0. All right. Line item 19, discussion and possible action regarding revisions to policy GABB, negative information as a first reading. This item is being presented by Executive Director of Human Resources, Billy Jo Hogan.
Thank you. And again, Pull Pact, our public agency insurance pool and risk management, provides school districts with recommendations and policy changes based on recent laws that were passed. The simple changes with this board policy GABB is revised language for the employee file to now be considered master personnel file. Since removing the negative or derogatory language lives in the negotiated agreement, this language was stricken from policy.
Thank you.
Ms. Peterson.
Mr. McIntyre.
Make a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the revisions to LCSD Board Policy GABB, negative information as a first reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Farr. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Hendricks.
I'd just like to mention that when this comes back for the second reading, we're going to incorporate some of the language that Lorraine Delatorre recommended on agenda items 16, 18, and 19.
I just want to point out that she just said that that statement lives in the negotiated agreement, and our council already told us the negotiated agreement trumps. So is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes, thank you.
By law, the CBA would take precedence of that, so it doesn't need to be set forth in every policy.
Okay, so we're not going to try to incorporate any of that in there because it would muddy it up.
I have no problem looking at what she's suggesting, because to be honest with you, it came across pretty fast. And so to my defense, I don't know exactly fully, but if it starts leaning towards going back to the negotiated agreement or the CBA, I would say that we leave it out.
Okay.
But if there's other verbiage that we can incorporate, we're willing to look at it.
So you'll have a discussion with Ms. Delatorre.
Yeah, she gave us our
Work
stuff
that out.
already. And again, truly, we plan on sending you in enough time for you to be able to read and give feedback. That's good practice anyways.
They'll work it out. They'll work it out and bring it back for us. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Farr. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? Motion carries 6-0. Line item 20, discussion and possible action regarding revisions to policy GABC, verification of employment as a first reading. This is being presented by Executive Director of Human Resources, Billy Joe Hogan.
Thank you. PULPAC, our public agency insurance tool and risk management human resource support entity. I feel like I'm doing a commercial. I'll change my tone each time. Entertaining. They assist school districts with recommended policy changes and updating our policies to reflect those changes. So GABC is revised to updated language, including an employee's resident or telephone number will not be given without authorization signed by the employee.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes, Mr. Farr.
Make a motion, the Board of Trustees approve revisions to LCSD Board Policy GABC, verification of employment as a first read.
I'll
Second.
second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Farr, second by Mr. Hendricks. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, signify blah, 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 say aye. Okay. Any nays? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right, line item 21, discussion and possible action regarding revisions to policy GAC, confidential information as a first reading. This is being presented by Human Resources Director, Billy Joe Hogan.
Once again, PULPAC, our public agency, provides school districts with recommended policy changes. In this board policy GAC, they're revised to define what should and should not be considered confidential information and those who have access to view that confidential information.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Ms. Peterson.
Mr. McIntyre.
Make a motion that the Board of Trustees approve revisions to LCSD Board Policy GAC, confidential information as a first reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Ms. Lyons. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? Motion carries 6-0. Line item 22, discussion and possible action regarding revisions to policy GL, staff complaints as a second and final reading. This item is being presented by Executive Director of Human Resources, Billy Joe Hogan.
Thank you. Yes, and this is the second reading. It's just recommending revisions to the policy to include timelines for completion of staff complaint and investigations. And originally didn't have a set timeline.
Ms. Peterson.
All 1 second, Mr. Farr. Ms. Lyons, go ahead.
Any changes since we saw this last? No, thank you.
All right, Mr. Farr.
Make a motion, the Board of Trustees approve the revisions to LCSD policy GL, staff complaints as a second and final reading.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Farr, a second by Ms. Lyons. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? Motion carries 6-0. And you get to leave.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you did a great job. Okay, line item 23. Discussion and possible action regarding revisions to policy IIAA, textbook and instructional materials adoption as a second and final reading. This item is being presented by Executive Directors of Education Services, Heather Moyle and Jim Giannotti.
Do you have any questions since the last time or?
Nothing's changed, correct?
No changes?
No.
Ms. Peterson?
Mr. McIntyre.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the update to Lyon County School District's board policy IIAA textbook and instructional materials adoption and management as a second and final reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McIntyre, a second by Ms. Lyons. Is there any other discussion?
Just
Yes, Mr. Farr.
Get policy, what actually changed from CSD policy to AA instructional materials selection, adoption, replacement, and dispersal.
Is that correct? Did you get
Yes.
read wrong? Okay. So that will, you need to modify your motion just to include the correct title. Just say yes. Just say yes.
Yes, I make amendment.
Thank you. Ms. Lyons.
I'm in my second.
Perfect. Mr. Hendricks, did you have a question?
I just wanted the first paragraph on, all the changes here that we've added. We need to add the word of adoption and disposal of instructional material. But I have a question. We're deleting, we're striking a paragraph here. The district shall provide textbooks, instructional material in a manner that is consistent with the financial resources of the district and of sufficient quality and quantity to offer every student a reasonable opportunity to acquire skills and knowledge defined for each subject taught. What's the reasoning behind removing that language?
It was just cleaning up all of, excuse me, it was just cleaning up all of our, the language in that. I mean, it's something that we can keep in there if the district would like to.
I think it's good that we, say that we're going to offer textbooks and instructional material of sufficient quality and quantity to offer every student a reasonable opportunity to acquire the skills and knowledge defined in the subject matter taught. I think that's a good thing. And I just would like to see it stay in there. Also, a little further down, it says that the district, and this is again something we're going to strike, the district shall ensure proper maintenance and inventory control of textbooks. That seems a reasonable thing to be doing, and I'm wondering why we're
Well,
removing.
it's actually in our procedures. So it's in the, so further down in the procedures, it's addressed there.
Can you point that out to me? Is it just the next paragraph down?
It's like 6 pages afterwards. of the
6 pages
procedure.
afterwards? Okay.
Disposal of obsolete instructional materials.
But do we still have inventory control?
Well, right now, most of our materials are in workbook form. We rarely use textbooks. A few at the high school level, but right now it's either in digital format or workbooks.
I understand. A lot of it is, but we still have some textbooks. I'm just wondering if we could keep track of what we have.
Yeah. So, oh yes, we do inventory those.
That is largely incumbent upon the site to keep track of their inventory and then notify the district if they're, depleted or if they're in dire need of replacement, those types of things.
So I'm just wondering why we would remove it from the policy.
It's not removed. It's actually
Inventory control. Again, is that further back in?
Yeah, it's actually obsolete right now. I mean, we don't have a lot of it. We have
a lot of consumables and then a lot of digital resources through Chromebooks, et cetera, web-based. But I understand what you're saying. In particular at the high school level, we still have a lot of hardbound textbooks that students would utilize, and we could certainly add something back in regarding inventory control. I don't know if that would necessitate third reading. But
we use that for everything. Our Chromebooks, I mean, we could have that for everything that we purchase.
I understand that the majority of it is not a hardbound textbook, but the ones that we do have, I'd like to see us keep track of those,
Oh, we
where they're
do.
going.
Definitely.
Inventory.
Yeah.
Understood.
And, just saying that we're going to have, textbooks and instructional material of sufficient quality, is important. I mean, why would we remove that?
I'm not opposed to keeping that in there.
Madam Clerk,
Yes,
there's a motion to approve it as written.
there is.
If you want to keep that in, then there would need to be an amendment.
Mhm.
And I don't have concerns at both those paragraphs. I don't read anything and I understand where you're coming from too. So that's a decision if you choose to
The
alter.
motion to amend?
No, Mr.
No,
McIntyre would have to do that.
Can I just rescind my motion?
You can just amend it to,
I'll rescind my motion.
And the second's rescinded.
and you're rescinding your second, Ms. Williams. Okay. Then looking for a new motion.
So I'd like to make a motion that we amend by keeping the language that in here that's been stricken. It says the district shall provide textbooks and or instructional materials in a manner that is consistent with the financial resources of the district and is of sufficient quality and quantity to offer every student a reasonable opportunity to acquire the skills and knowledge defined for each subject matter taught. Like that to remain in there, that entire paragraph. And then 2 paragraphs down, we've stricken that entire paragraph. I'd like to have the district shall ensure proper maintenance and inventory control of textbooks put back in.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Hendricks, a second by Ms. Parsons. Any further discussion?
We'll also fix that that was in there. That is easy one.
We can do this now and it will be done as a second reading, as is. In the motion, we don't need a third reading.
That's correct.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a nay? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last item, number 24, discussion and possible action on agenda items for future board meetings and or information item requests, including a summary by the superintendent. This is being presented by myself and Superintendent Tim Logan.
So our next meeting is September 24th at Silverland Middle School. Multi-purpose room there. Got a few items. One is we'll be bringing the progressive restorative discipline plan forward. That needs to be approved here and then it moves forward to the state. The Lyon online update that was requested will be coming forth. Staffing update that was requested and the facilities update that was requested will all be coming forth next month. We'll be bringing forth the Yerington District Office, the Goldfield roadway rehabilitation is going to be, it's curb and sidewalk that we'll be having a discussion about when they're coming through and doing that road. So that will be on the agenda. We'll have all the introduction of the new staff at Fernley, as well as their highlights and goals. We didn't do that this time because our staff was not quite back to be able to share those, but that will start with the Fernley area. The IKF graduation, that was the third reading that we'll be bringing back. We needed a little more time, partially because the state did finally approve. And so we'll look at that, as well as we wanted some time to work with our social studies counselor and administration on that. So that will be coming forth for as many readings as we need to dial that one in. We're gonna have like I said, a lot of policy Gs that are coming forward. So I'll bring about 5 or 6, but that also means we have 5 or 6 second readings that'll also be on there. So summer's over and we're gonna start increasing the size of our agendas, I think, but that's what I have.
Anything else? Yes, Mr. Farr.
Mr. Logan, this is just me being flippant, sorry, partly candid, but could we just have Billy Joe wear a full pack t-shirt? Get that out of the way.
It will get redundant if we're gonna keep, so maybe we'll try to have a quick, easy statement we may try to make or something.
Right, anything else? Right, line item 25, public participation. Is there any public participation on items not listed on the agenda at this time? All right, step on up. I'm going to read this statement once again. Items not listed on the agenda. At this time, the public is invited to address the board on items not listed on the agenda over which the board has jurisdiction. No action may be taken on any subject raised during public comment until the matter has been properly placed on an agenda for a properly noticed meeting pursuant to NRS 241. If you wish to speak, please step up to the front table, be seated, and state your name. Your comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per person and must fall under subjects within the board's jurisdiction and control. In consideration of others, avoid repetition or designate a spokesperson to speak on behalf of your group. Although this board does not restrict comments based upon viewpoint, comments will be prohibited if the contents are willfully disruptive, slanderous, amount to personal attacks, or interfere with the rights of other speakers. Comments made during this time are monitored by myself. Go for it. Don't forget to say your name.
Oh, Lorraine Delatorre, LCEA. And I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the Dayton High School Culinary. They catered our new teacher luncheon with us. LCA asked them to do it and they were absolutely amazing. The kids did a fantastic job. They cooked, they served, they set up, they cleaned down. They fed 150 people that day. They were nervous, but it was amazing and the food was absolutely delicious. There was basically people went through the line for seconds and thirds. So it is like a diamond there that you guys should really, call on. I guess he does other catering events. If you guys give him a shout out in plenty of time. So he had the summer to plan all this out. So probably not as much time. And also our teacher leaders that were there too, and they're going to be there on the 30th. They are working their tails off, getting ready, presenting, doing support with all these new staff that have been brought on. So I really appreciate their time, but please give them some kudos for their time and their effort there. But yeah, it was a 5-team on the culinary and they served 150 people. It was amazing. So please use them. They want to learn and continue to do more and expand their culinary skills.
Thank you. Yes, way to go, culinary students. Fantastic. Is there any other public comment?
James Whistler, Fernley. I just want to say, I think it's great that the district is taking the opportunity to bring back retired teachers to fill the critical needs that we have going on here. And it's good that, they still keep their retirement and whatnot. With that, I want to know what the district's going to do to retain new teachers. How are we going to keep them here for more than 1 or 2 or 3 years? What are we going to do to prevent teacher burnout? Biggest worry is there will be a lack of subs and these teachers will be required to fill any of those spots. I know positions are being filled, but by the next meeting or at the next meeting, I would like to see a breakdown of how many of these subs, long-term, emergency, short terms, who's fully credited, interns, and do the families know all this? That would be nice to see at the next meeting so everybody out there knows exactly who's who and what's going on with the numbers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Whistler, anyone else? Well, don't forget to state your name.
I'm Sean Sanchez. I teach second grade here at Lyon. Today we found out that there have been some changes in what we can use to communicate with parents. I'm a huge proponent of communicating well with parents, and usually I get good feedback on that. The district, I believe, has chosen a new means to push that out. And I'm a little afraid that a lot of the things that people use, we're going to lose. And so I have some concerns. The app I use allows me to post photos and videos and parents get to see it, communicate, respond. I can have parent conferences sign up on there. And I usually get that 100%. And so my concern is I haven't gotten a chance to look at it yet. But from what I've seen, I don't see all of that in there. And I just want to make sure that we can continue to keep parent communication widely open. And that we can try to not use 15 different applications to do one thing. So I don't know where we can look into that at. It's just something that I wanted to speak to as a teacher who wants to kind of make sure that my families and my parents can see what's going on in the room.
Can I just ask what the name
Sure.
of the app is?
The one I use is Blooms, but there's a ton out there. And I know that some of the concerns are not having access to the data if something goes wrong, or the fact that they might sell information out the back end. I get that. And like I said, I haven't seen the new one really well. From what I've seen, I don't see the ability to do a lot of things that we do. And so it's not the fear of change. It's more the fear of having to go out of my way to do 5 different things when I could have done them all in one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, anyone else? Okay, thank you everyone for coming to our meeting tonight. Appreciate it. And this was a fast one, so congratulations. You can go home now. Meeting is adjourned.